Look, you do not need a new phone. You don't need another pair of shoes. And you probably don't even need that thing that's currently just sitting in your online shopping cart right now. So why does hitting buy feel so incredibly good? Well, the answer isn't simply that you're bad with money. It's actually all about how the human brain is wired. Okay, let's dive into this because understanding this hidden wiring, that is the absolute key to mastering your own wealth.
In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly why really intelligent people repeatedly buy things they don't actually need. The crucial thing to understand here is that our spending is driven by deep psychological mechanisms and cognitive biases, not just some superficial desire for more stuff. Now, consumption itself isn't inherently bad, right? Buying things can be extremely useful, it's enjoyable, and obviously it provides for our fundamental survival needs. But modern consumer culture has basically figured out how to hijack our neurochemistry. It is perfectly optimized to keep us spending long after actual needs are met.
And that hijacking creates what we can call the endless regret loop. Have you ever noticed that the real thrill is often just in the chase? The anticipation of buying something new, or even just waiting for a package to arrive at your door, releases a massive spike of dopamine in our brains. We absolutely love the novelty. We crave that reward. But the exact moment we open that box, the thrill evaporates. It's like, step 1, I want it. Step 2, I buy it. Step 3, I completely regret it. We are constantly chasing dopamine through consumption, shifting completely unconsciously from a state of wanting to a state of getting, only to find out that the satisfaction just doesn't last. To break out of this loop, we have to establish a baseline and untangle our surface-level wants from our deeper emotional needs. In his coaching frameworks, Michael Bungay-Stanier makes a really brilliant distinction here. A want is just a surface request, right? It's a tactical outcome, like saying, oh, I'd like to have this new phone. But a need, that goes so much deeper into the human condition. Needs are universal. When you feel this urgent, almost physical pull to buy a luxury item, your brain might actually be desperately craving identity or belonging, and it's literally trying to purchase it over the counter. To really understand why we give in to these tactical wants so easily, we have to look at the work of Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. In his incredible book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman reveals that our brain essentially uses two competing systems for making decisions. Think of it like this. System 1 is fast. It's automatic, it's highly emotional, and it relies heavily on mental shortcuts. System 2, on the other hand, is slow, logical, and deliberate. So when you're mindlessly scrolling through an online store late at night, your impulsive, emotional System 1 is fully in the driver's seat, and your logical System 2, it is fast asleep. And here is where it gets dangerous. System 1 has some massive blind spots, particularly when it comes to the concept of losing. Kahneman's research highlights a cognitive bias called loss aversion. Listen to this carefully, because it's a game changer. Losses evoke stronger negative feelings than costs. To our primitive, survival-wired brains, the pain of missing out on a flash sale feels like a literal, physical loss. This psychological pain effectively short-circuits our rational, slow-thinking minds, and it makes us panic buy just to relieve the anxiety of missing out. Now, what is truly fascinating is how easily our fast-thinking System 1 is manipulated by mere words. It's crazy. Imagine an objective financial outcome, let's say ending up with £20 out of an initial 50. That exact same outcome can be framed to your brain in two totally different ways. You can frame it as keeping £20, or you can frame it as losing £30. Same math, entirely different emotional reaction. And the words used completely dictate our behavior. If a transaction is framed to your brain as losing £30, you become incredibly risk-seeking and anxious. You want to avoid that loss at all costs. But if that exact same transaction is framed as paying a £30 cost, well, suddenly it feels acceptable. Marketers know this inside and out. They frame their promotions so that walking away feels like you're actively losing money, tricking your System 1 into acting on a so-called deal that you never actually needed in the first place.
And this internal wiring, it's heavily amplified by our social environment. In his book, The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene discusses the grass is always greener syndrome. By nature, we are rarely completely contented with our circumstances. The very moment we possess something, our minds immediately drift toward imagining something better. Furthermore, we are immensely social creatures. We subconsciously desire what other people desire. When we see a trend catching on, it creates a viral effect in our brains. We aren't just buying the object anymore, we're buying the social status and the validation that comes with it. This social amplification is exactly what Robert Cialdini explores in his landmarked book, Influence. E-commerce platforms are explicitly engineered to exploit our social and survival instincts using very precise triggers.
You know the ones I'm talking about. When you see only two left, that is scarcity, triggering our intense loss aversion. When you read 10,000 people bought this, that is social proof, leveraging our deep desire to want what others have. And a limited time offer? That forces our fast-thinking System 1 to make a snap decision before our logical System 2 can intervene and talk us out of it. So what actually happens when you combine a fast-thinking, emotionally driven brain with a digital environment that's perfectly designed to trigger it? Well, you get the ultimate trap: retail therapy. In his book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Eker explains that, for the most part, buying things for immediate gratification is nothing more than a futile attempt to make up for dissatisfaction in life. We use shopping to soothe deeper emotional unrest, stress, or even just plain old boredom. And Eker brilliantly illustrates the core danger of retail therapy. He writes, "Spending money you don't have comes from expending emotions you do have." It's so true, right? When you spend money just to soothe an emotion, the responsible part of your brain eventually catches up. You wake up the next day feeling totally guilty and ashamed of the purchase. And what do we do when we feel guilty and ashamed? We often unconsciously overspend again as a temporary fix to cope with those very emotions. You end up completely trapped in a cycle. Aker gives a perfect everyday example of this with what he calls the 25% off green purse justification. Imagine you're walking through the mall, feeling a bit down, and you see a green purse on sale for 25% off. In a nanosecond, your emotional System 1 justifies the purchase. Oh, I need this to match my green shoes, it's the perfect size, and I mean, come on, it is such a great deal. To the emotional mind, this purchase makes perfect sense. What System 1 completely ignores is the fact that you might already have $3,000 in credit card debt. Now, listen, if you have fallen for this, do not beat yourself up. As Scott Galloway outlines in his book, The Algebra of Wealth, capitalism harnesses the absolute best ingenuity, data, and energy of an entire society toward one singular purpose: to persuade you to spend your money. The system is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It sits on a foundation of real human needs: food, shelter, companionship, but it is an absolute master at transforming those baseline needs into endless, upgradable wants, which makes it incredibly hard to save and build long-term wealth. So how do we fight back? How do we start spending intentionally? Well, we have to actively force our slow-thinking, logical System 2 to wake up before we hit that checkout button. Here is a simple, 3-step mental framework you can use. Number 1, ask, would I still want this tomorrow? This creates much-needed friction and gives that immediate dopamine spike time to fade. Number 2, ask, what problem is this actually solving? This helps you separate a tactical, surface-level want from a deep emotional need. And number 3, ask, what future opportunity am I giving up by spending this money today? That third question, that is all about mastering opportunity cost. Think about it like two paths. Path A is treating $500 for stuff today, stuff that will likely just sit in a closet 6 months from now. Path B is treating $500 for future options. As Morgan Housel points out in his brilliant book, The Psychology of Money, true wealth isn't about the cars you drive or the clothes you wear. Wealth is what you don't see. It is the unspent money. Money doesn't only buy things, it buys options. And sometimes the absolute most valuable thing you can buy with your money is the freedom and ability to just say no. Understanding these psychological biases doesn't mean you can literally never buy anything fun ever again. It just means you are back in the driver's seat making intentional choices rather than being led around by your own neurochemistry and clever digital marketing. So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on today. What is something you bought recently that you later realized you didn't really need? Think about what triggered you to buy it in that exact moment. And the next time you're hovering over a buy now button, remember to take a breath, wake up your slow thinking brain, and ask yourself, are you buying a thing or are you giving up your future freedom?